We're in. Okay, boss. How do you juggle your time?
I don't know. It's a great question.
No.
It's a learning experience currently.
Yeah.
With my new current situation. I used to have it down to a T, and now it's like a whole new learning experience all over again. With 2 newborns, right? So I used to be I used to like to plan my days and my time really honestly quite down to the minute. That is not a possibility when you have 2 newborns hanging out with you, you know?
Just hanging out.
It's a learning, just hanging out. It's currently a learning experience that I don't quite have an answer to yet, but it changes every day.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I'm pretty sure they dictate when you do things, you know? It's like, hey, you're not doing that right now. Like, I need your attention.
Exactly. Currently, it's a lot of flexibility, being flexible, and maybe having your list of things that you would, keyword is like, to get done within the 24-hour period, right? And then fitting them in with where they will fit, which is not how I'm used to operating. But you know, as time goes on, it's definitely in the 3 short months that the girls have been alive has taught me a lot. You know, in many ways, but obviously one of them is definitely priorities and figuring out how to be more flexible. As someone that isn't typically that, I wouldn't say that was one of my strongest suits in my past. So
I mean, it's hard to be flexible when you're spinning so many plates, right? It's like, nah, I can't, you know, give 5-10 minutes here, there, and everywhere because I'm needed somewhere else. And now, obviously, you've got two little ladies have joined you on your journey. Like, what's that like being someone who's like minute by minute to then, oh crap, like, okay, I mean, I guess I'm gonna get 1 out of 50 things done.
Yeah. I try to get 2 out of 50, you know, it's a success, 2 out of 50, but, you know, in a lot of ways, you could say this about 2020 slowing you down, right? With COVID, maybe, I know not in New Zealand as much, but definitely over here, things shutting down, things reopening. Definitely in terms of jobs, very different for a lot of people, but where I'm at, before I got pregnant and had twins, I was working inside of a gym physically, running a team of personal trainers, and then also doing online training for powerlifters. So kind of 2 different things. And obviously COVID happens, shuts gyms down, really makes you take a step back and kind of like reevaluate things, right? Slow down a little bit, which again, something I'm not used to doing is slowing down. So then fast forward and having twins at the end of last year, just another giant thing that is completely right, blown my mind, made me take a step back, reevaluate different things and see what I want to do and what can get cut and what's the most important to me right now. And it's crazy, you know, like it's really cool to be forced to live in the moment.
Yeah.
You have no other option. And that's all they're doing, right? They're what, 3 months old? Like they're just living in every moment. Like you laughing at them is the coolest thing they've ever seen. You know, like it's things like that you just, obviously you grow up, you start moving fast, you're working, you're in the grind, you forget about like the living in the moment as much. And so that's been very cool. That's the favorite thing I've learned so far. I don't even remember what the question was, but
neither do I, but that's taking me on a journey. Wow. Yeah. Like literally, yeah, you've been forced to slow down and take things, you know, minute by minute, day by day.
Yeah. And as you can tell, that like my brain is on sleep deprivation. So like, I don't remember what the question was, going on a tangent. And then I just start thinking about other things.
Hey, this is me every day.
Lesson number 2 is you need to write everything down. Right. So I'm going to be over here taking notes. No, I'm just kidding. But I should, on what you're actually asking me so I don't go too far off topic.
Well, if you could see my desk right now, you would, that's me every day. I've got the worst
Yeah.
memory on the history of the planet. Both sides of my family, both sides of both sides. So paternal, maternal side, all got history of like dementia or Alzheimer's, one of the two. And then I've had like, I don't know, over 10 concussions.
Same, but I'm hoping that like at this age, we're not worried about that yet.
Who knows?
Now you're going to make me nervous that this isn't a sleep deprivation thing. I'm actually just cracking down with Alzheimer's at the age of 32, you know?
Well, you know, sticky notes are a beautiful thing. Look, I've got my little pad here, my little pink pad. It's a luminous pink, so I mean, I can't exactly miss it, right? They're a beautiful thing. You know, you don't forget things.
They are. I agree. I'm a big pen and paper person. I know that, you know, with phones and technology, you can schedule everything in your phone, and that's great. I do that too in my calendar. But in terms of like the things day to day, like you're saying, Post-its, pen and paper, it's the way to go. You can't beat it. There's something about writing it down physically that like just makes it stick a little better.
100%. Like you know, I'm a little bit spiritual, so you end up like, you know, putting it into the whole physical realm or whatever you want to fucking call it. It doesn't really matter. You're going through the energy and the process of like writing it down, gets it out of your head. You know, you can jot it in your phone. Mate, the amount of like threads of notes I have in my phone, like I can never find what I want to find.
No.
And especially like they transfer, don't they? You get a new phone and it's the same notes. Oh my God. And I'm like, look, I'm scrolling through like 10 years of notes here. You know what I mean?
I do. They're in the cloud, so you can never get away from them. But funny enough, and I know obviously, you know, technology is a great thing and I do embrace technology, but when I was in my last job and I was learning, right? So, you know, going through training and whatnot, it's just, again, random story, but I was writing literal notes. I had a notebook with how to do everything in terms of the processes with the software and the technology we're using and whatnot. And my boss at the time is very tech savvy, loves like filing everything in Excel and Google Docs and all of those things in terms of like those types of things. And so we're so different, and we became very good friends. But I, for the first whatever month, was writing down like, okay, this is where I need to go to do this, and this is where I need to go to do this in a note. And she was looking at me like, this girl is never going to be able to find any of those things when she needs them. And I'm looking at her like, I'm not putting that on my computer. I will never be able to find that when I need them. And then flash forward, you know, say 4 months later, and I need to go do something I've never done before. And I'm like, oh, I got that in my notebook. Let me just let me see, what day did I learn that? Okay, so it should be about here. I'd whip out the page and she'd be like, what the hell? So it's like a running joke the whole time we worked together, because she was like, I have no idea how your brain works. Like it does not work like mine. And I was like, that's cool, because I got no idea how your brain works.
Oh, people that are tech savvy, mate, it's like they speak a different language.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you getting information from a screen which is ones and zeros? It doesn't make any sense.
No, I know, it's amazing.
I mean,
it's amazing. I don't have that part.
No,
in my brain.
I think I'm stuck in like the Bronze Age or something.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Someone's got to do it, right? I mean, hey.
You're always going to need someone.
Someone needs to buy the paper. Keep the paper businesses, the paper mills in business.
Who else better to do it than people that work in fitness, right? We're very hands-on type of people. Like, hey, just give us some notes. Whiteboards. I like whiteboards. I've got whiteboards everywhere. I've got like 3 or 4 whiteboards just like stashed around. I've scribbled down notes on it. Like, although, you know what the most annoying thing in the world is? When your whiteboard pen is like running out and it's not clean.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
The world's ending.
Or if someone, it does. Or if you spray it down with like a cleaner that then you can't erase after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With just an eraser.
Yeah.
Like takes off the finish or something.
Yeah. Or someone uses
a
permanent marker on it.
That's the most unfortunate.
It's always funny though when you you just draw a little penis in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's on permanent marker.
Watch people stand there and try.
You're like, hey, that wasn't
How
me.
long will they try? I don't know who did that. I don't know how to remove it, but good luck.
Yeah, you have to put like a little sticker over it. You get like SpongeBob from someone's backpack and you stick it on and you're like, look, now we have SpongeBob on our board. Get rid of it. Oh, it's amazing. Right. Weightlifting and powerlifting. What made you want to be a weightlifter that bench presses?
Yeah, pretty much. I have no idea. Honestly, I powerlifted first and someone was like, you should try weightlifting. And I was like, novel idea. Sure. I'll give it a go. Ended up liking it. So I was like, yeah, let's just keep this train rolling and do both. Cause why not? But in reality, I mean, I found success powerlifting. So that was fun. And weightlifting, I was new at and got to learn a ton of different things. And that was fun in two very different ways. So I feel like they kind of give me two very different things, even though they're essentially they're both strength sports, you know, but they're doing two completely different things for me.
What was
mentally?
Yeah, because like,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, okay, I understand that. We'll go down that rabbit hole because I understand. I've met a lot of people that no, it's like I think my mind works the same as yours, but obviously I've not given birth to two twins, so I've got no excuse. So hey ho. But I've met a load of people that come into weightlifting and they like it because they've got to eat humble pie. It's like, oh, I can't just like grip and rip, you know what I mean? And just like be pretty good at this already. I'm like, no, like a snatch will sit you down.
Yes. So, right. So going in that direction, when I first started, I could squat. I'm trying to think, what could I squat when I started weightlifting? Probably I could squat 400 pounds, right? When I started weightlifting. And I learned how to, like 182-ish kilos. I think that's 400, works out to 400. So ironically, that's when I started weightlifting and learning how to snatch and clean. I was falling on my butt with 45 kilos on the bar, which isn't a strength thing, obviously, but it is like, oh, wow. You know, it does make you eat humble pie real fast and learn that, yeah, you might be strong, but that's not all that matters in this strength sport. I don't know why it is a strength sport, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a skill, right? But there's also a massive
100%.
amount of skill element in powerlifting. Like people, I think. All right, I'm going to throw them under the bus. I think CrossFitters look at powerlifters and they're just like, just brute strength. I'm like, motherfucker, there's so much skill that goes involved with that.
There is. Yes, I agree. And like, come on, CrossFitters, really? You know, some of you don't have much skill going on here. I'm just like, not skill, technique. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to use their brute strength to clean and jerk. And I'm like, that doesn't look good. That ain't gonna end well. Not all of them. I'm just kidding. But since they shit on so it's just powerlifting, I might as well, give it back. No, I think CrossFit's great. I wish I did CrossFit, but it never happened. Now I'm just over that hurdle. We got two twins, so one set of twins, two babies. But powerlifting, I do think that yes, there's a huge amount of technique involved, but I also think a lot of times people go down that rabbit hole a little bit too hard. It's like an easy entry strength sport. Like everyone can learn how to powerlift. I truly believe that. And everyone's lifts will look a little bit different. There's certain principles behind every single lift. But sometimes I think people get too caught up on the nuances and not progressing as they should, like thinking that something that is so minuscule is holding them back more than it is. Does that make sense? Rather than getting a solid foundation, building your strength, and then yes, you're going to start to hit your limit. And that's when those little tiny technical things become so much more important. And that's when you really want to drill home like each little nuanced thing rather than focusing on that at the beginning, which is I feel like happens a lot. And I'm not sure why. I think it's probably the social media phenomenon of like everyone, has to be perfect in what they're doing technique wise. And there's a lot of variances between how everyone's going to squat and how everyone's going to bench. And until you really build some strength and until you really have some experience, you're not going to be able to drill in your own technique because it might change over time.
Yeah, and it's people just look for excuses, you know what I mean, and they look for a quick fix pill, and you know it's the whole thing with the fish diagram. Like as your fitness or your performance goes up, then or gets close to this whole genetic potential, like, you just get fucking fitter and stronger. Like the need for complexity will end up going up, periodization and all that shit. But it's
100%.
like, hey, like what, you've never lifted before or kind of done anything before? Wicked, do anything and you'll get better. Like, what do you mean? I was like, do anything, it doesn't matter.
Literally, right? So like at first, but like you're saying, technique wise or even programming wise, like at first, like, oh, I've never powerlifted before, what program should I do? Honestly, doesn't really matter. Yeah, there's going to be some that are better than others, of course. There's going to be some that work better for you than others, of course. But like you're saying, any one of them is going to make you stronger.
Usually pick the one that's free.
Just getting started, exactly, is the key part. And that's easy to do now. Google.
Yeah. What was his name? Was it Candido? Candido came up with like was it a free deadlift cycle? And every time, this was fucking years ago, just came up. People were like, oh, what should I do? Like, look, if it's the first time you're ever doing this, like this fella has produced a top class bloody program, and it's free. Go download it. Go do it.
Yeah.
Come back.
Right. I agree. And listen, I coach people for a living, which means people pay me to write their programs and to give them feedback and to coach them. But if someone's coming to me and they're kind of like on that fence, right? Maybe they've never even lifted before, but they're comfortable with the lift. So like they don't need someone to help them that way, but they're not sure they want to compete yet. Like, go try a program, like test it out. You may love it and be all in, then like, let's go. But if you may also hate it, then hey, you're going to know real fast and you can just switch gears and you don't need to waste, your money.
I think, everyone's just doing a bit of GPP. Do everything. Just try everything.
Yeah.
Like maybe strength sports ain't for you. Maybe CrossFit isn't for you. Maybe you just want to play, do Zumba or go play beach volleyball or some shit. Like just go play sport.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Do everything. And then
that's the key.
Have fun.
Have fun. That have fun part is the key, because then you're going to keep doing it. And doing, like you said before, doing anything. If you're doing nothing, doing anything will make you more fit, make you stronger, make you healthier. But the key is doing anything. And that's sometimes a huge hurdle. So finding out what you like to do and what is fun for you to do sounds simple, but it's not for most people.
Yeah. Especially the barbell. Like if you don't love it, you're not going to do it.
No.
Like
there's plenty of terrible days under the barbell.
Most days suck shit. You know what I mean? You're like, nah, I do not want to be here, do this, or I want to go home and eat a packet of Oreos and just cry into, I don't know, Love Actually on the telly or something. And it's like, nah, you've got to dial it back, do this, especially weightlifting. My God.
Yeah.
Many emotional days with the snatch.
Yeah. For me, it's the jerk. We're not friends. Not sure why, because you would think I have tremendously short arms. That would be wonderful for jerking, but it just doesn't work out that way. But yeah, I think that sometimes I definitely can say I get caught in the bubble of like the lifting bubble, if you will, because the lifting community as a community is huge when you think about it that way. But if you're thinking about it in terms of fitness, it's small. Or the world, it's tiny, right? So I think most people would think people in strength sports are wacky for liking it.
Well, like
and that is easy to forget.
We are the weird cousin that sits at the back of the room, that like kind of throws a barbell around, sits down and eats a Jaffa cake. You don't see him move for like the next 10 minutes and then like screams and picks up some ungodly weight. You're just like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Why? Like, why don't you go do some incline walking on a treadmill? You're like, please.
Right. Sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's easy to forget, especially, I mean, for me personally, in the US and Massachusetts. I haven't necessarily been out around, like, a lot of my friends are not lifters, right? Like, outside of removing myself from the lifting community in my regular life, most of my friends aren't lifters or into lifting. So they all think I'm a whack job, but I'm used to that. I've embraced that. Like, that's my different, you know? But I forget about it because I haven't been out in public in so long.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, not because I'm trying to avoid people, but because of that, you forget how different or how unusual most people would think lifters are for loving the barbell, because many times the barbell is not nice to you, and many times training sessions are hard. And what are you necessarily gaining from it? That's what I think most people don't understand unless you love lifting, because it's an intangible thing.
It's the mental side.
Exactly.
The barbell is the best teacher like you'll ever have in your life. Like, if someone came up to me and was like, what's the one life lesson you would give someone? I'd give them a barbell. Master this, because you never will.
Because you never will.
It's true, right? Like, what was
yes.
one of the first things I was ever told when I kind of like, so I got into weightlifting through CrossFit, and I got into CrossFit through S&C for sport. So I played rugby and swimming through that. So, like, always training for something, you know what I mean? You kind of go through those waves, pardon the pun.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I was ever told when I got into weightlifting was they told, rule number 1 of weightlifting. I was like, yeah. Like, you'll always be shit at weightlifting. So, thanks. Like, yeah. Now let's go to work.
Right.
And I think.
Oh,
go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I think like weightlifting is one of those things where you get so much better at, but you always feel like you don't know anything.
Yeah.
About weightlifting.
Yeah.
Like, you know so much more, but at the same time, you kind of feel like you don't know anything.
Yeah, and it's also like how it feels is never how it looks.
No.
So I missed 2 snatches yesterday. I was in a CrossFit class, so I wasn't really paying attention what I was slapping on the bar. I was just going up in like 10-kilo jumps on a snatch, which is just a daft idea.
It's ridiculous.
But whatever. I was just slapping plates on because they were like, all right, give me 3 reps within 2 minutes. I was like, within 2 minutes? You want 3 reps? Jesus. Like, I'm going to need to sit down, mate. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I get to my final lift, and I was pissed because I missed it twice. I was like, fuck, I've missed my snatch twice. Like, I was absolutely fuming. I get home like last night, and I was like, I kind of like replayed what I had on the bar. I was like, I missed like 97, 98% twice.
Oh, right.
In a bloody EMOM. And I was like, well, yeah, of course I did.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, like that humbleness you get from the bar, oh mate, it pumps me up. Just want to go train.
It makes you want to come back. It makes you want to get better.
Oh yeah.
And that's the biggest lesson you can learn in life, right? Like, just get better at whatever it is.
Don't be shit.
Get better. No, but like, I mean, you're going to be shit at a lot of things, but if you get better, I think that you've won.
Yeah. Yeah, but how many times have you heard it where it's like, oh, coach, like, how was that? Do better. What do you mean? Just do better. Oh,
right.
Thanks.
Like, you thought it was phenomenal. It's like, not so much.
Marginal gains, yeah.
But again, that goes back to how it looks, how it feels. A lot of times they don't match up, and in a good way or a bad way. Sometimes it goes the other way too. It feels terrible and it looks great, and you're like, that's weird. But it's not as it appears always, right? Or not as it seems, which is interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, I agree. I think that the barbell in general, any strength sport, whether it's CrossFit or weightlifting or powerlifting, or throw like strongman in there, right, is going to teach you so many different lessons that carry over to life. And that's been my favorite part about strength sports in general.
Yeah.
And for sure why I stuck with 2. I mean, let's be honest. I stuck with powerlifting because it's cool to lift heavy shit. And to be honest, it's cool to be able to do it well and to be competitive in it. And weightlifting, well, weightlifting's just cool. There's something about it because you shouldn't be able to throw weight over your head like that. Like you just shouldn't. But you can. And the learning curve is very steep to do so. But there is something about almost like the cadence of weightlifting and the technical aspect of weightlifting that is really cool.
I think everyone is pursuing this like perfect sort of heavenly sort of way of moving, right? Which no one will ever reach.
No.
But I think that whole pursuit of something that we can't quite touch is really addictive. Plus, like the feeling and also how it looks of it, like the most beautiful executed snatch or even clean and jerk is gorgeous. Like you can't say anything about it. Just like, well, that was beautiful.
Right. But you know, what's interesting if you went and asked that person, because like we all can probably like visualize if you're into weightlifting, right? Like seeing a snatch or a clean and jerk, they're like, wow, that was beautiful. That was perfect. If you went and asked that person, I bet you they'd be like, nah, I should have done this, this, and this.
Yeah.
You know? You're like, oh, okay, well.
Like, what do you mean?
But that's the best part. They're trying to get better.
Yeah.
Even at that level, everyone's just trying to get better. So no matter how good you are, where you are on that scale, everyone's goal is just to get better.
Yeah. Oh, they turned around and was like, oh, I felt like shit. You're like, what do you mean?
I take that any day.
Like, nah. Like, yeah, it was a bit slow or whatever. I was like, I blinked and I missed it. Yeah. Fuck. I love it though. It's eating humble pie every day and just kind of having a pursuit of excellence, right? And always trying to chip away and be 1% better each day, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's the same deal, but we just use something tangible to put in our hand like a barbell and just to beat the living crap out of ourselves each day. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that, whether you walk, whether whatever. We use the tool, we'll call it, of strength sports, but there's many tools to do it, right? And it's just all that mental progression and keeps people's head above water.
Yeah. And again, like I think it's so transferable to anything else you do in life, right? And it's the same thing as like I feel like you grow up and you're learning all the time and you're trying different things and you get involved in different things and then you become older and you start working, right? And maybe you like your job, okay, that's cool. Maybe you're not necessarily learning anything new. It's like, how do we keep that process going? Like, I think that is what keeps you on your toes, keeps you young, so to speak, right? And for me, like that's definitely something lifting does. Like, I think that there's always more to learn. Like that's where my interests lie. So both like as an athlete and then on the other side, like as a coach and someone that likes science, like I think that's super cool. Like that's a way that I can keep learning both about myself, about the sports in general, about, you know, more scientific principles of strength. Like that's super cool to me. And I think that's something that doesn't always happen once you reach like adulthood.
Yeah. If you look at it from the scientific coach's perspective, like we've still not created the perfect program, which doesn't fucking exist because everything's going to change for everyone. Yet if you ask any coach, they're always like, oh, I'm always still searching for that one thing. And it's like, they know they're never going to find it, but that constant pursuit and constant learning, it's like something you do get in school as an aspect, but it's addictive. Like learning is addictive.
Especially when it's something that you love, right? Like, learning about anything is going to be cool, but it's when it's something that you're truly, truly interested in, that's awesome. You know, and even if there was a perfect program, it's going to be a perfect program for one person.
Yeah.
That's the best part. That's the best part. Like, that's what's so cool about it, you know? There's a million ways to get strong.
100%. Work is work, right? Like I say to people every time when they, if they come into a CrossFit scene or a CrossFit gym, like, oh, why is there no barbell? I'm like, because work is work. Like a kettlebell will get you strong, a sandbag will get you strong, fucking rowing will get you strong. Like all these different tools, it's just tools, right? Work is work. Do work. Oh, what do you mean? Just fucking do work and go hard. You'll get fitter. You'll get stronger. do whatever you can. And like you said, it's going to help for one person. But I think what makes it worthwhile, in my opinion anyway, is all those time and effort you put into learning and banging your head against the screen and trying to research or do all this stuff. And then you see the light bulb moment for an athlete and you're like, oh man, like the shit you get back from that just absolutely lights you up. Like I'm wired. I can't sleep after I see that stuff. I'm like, okay, I got to go back to work. It's like, no, Alex, you've worked for the past 14 hours. Calm down. All right. It's motivating.
But that's what also makes it, that's when you know that it's worth it for that person too. You know, because sometimes they don't. Like, yeah, we know as being in the sport, like you're going to have shitty days. You're going to be banging your head against the wall sometimes. Like things don't go the way you want. And when people start training for strength sports or any, you know, whatever it might be, I think a lot of times people experience a lot of frustration before they see success. But when they have that success, they have that light bulb moment, that's when you're like, okay, like they're going to stay involved, whether it's in this sport or another sport. Like they know these moments exist. So like this has all been worth it, and it will continue to be worth it because they'll stay involved in something. And that's the most, you know, important part to me, is that like I truly believe that everyone should be active somehow. It doesn't matter how, but everyone should be active. Like from a health standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from anything, like just doing something is so important, but most people don't do anything.
Well, I think
physically.
I think having a blessing in disguise has been the last year. Like we have ignored all those physical signs and symptoms of, oh, you live a sedentary life. Okay, cool. Your body's breaking down. But like, fuck it. It's going to be in like 30 years. I'm like, but you're only going to live to 50. Yeah, but I'm 20. I'm like, okay, cool. But in the past year, like people's mental health has just gone through the shitter.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, like physical health could kill you in 30 years, but mental health can kill you in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, like we now no longer look at it as two separate entities. We've now shoved it together and go, this is your health period. This is your wellness period, your fitness period. And I think, well, I hope, fingers crossed, that people start, okay, cool. I need to move. I need to do something, you know? People rely on pharmaceutical or like recreational drugs or whatever to feel that high, we'll call it, you know, quote unquote. But I'm like, yeah, you get that from endorphins, motherfucker. Go work out. Go walk around.
Yep. And it's so cyclical. When you feel better physically, you feel better mentally.
Yep.
They're just interconnected. It is what it is. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people never really understand that or get to experience that. So, and then when you tell people that, unfortunately, it sounds like you're kind of just saying that, right? Like you're just like, oh yeah, if you move, you'll feel better. If you know, move, your health will change, and then mentally you'll feel better. I think that's hard. And a lot of people get frustrated at the beginning, and that becomes a huge roadblock for people who are starting to lift or starting a fitness journey. Maybe they're walking or starting, you know, like a fitness class, like a group fitness class or something, and they get stuck because they never truly get to experience like the full effect, right? Like of getting healthier, feeling better physically, getting healthier, and their mental health benefiting from that as well. And then that only continues to improve. You know, it's definitely something that steamrolls as it picks up.
I think it's hard because it's the only thing that you can't do for someone, or someone can't do for you, whichever way you want to look at it. And like, you know, there's ways you can always cut corners, right? If you take a test, you can kind of cheat, or you can ask for the answers from your mate or whatever, you know, there's always ways around shit. Yeah, health and fitness is the one thing you can't get around it. Like there is no pill, nothing, no coach that can do it for you. You're like, you have to take the steps, you have to do the hard miles, and people don't like doing that. But at the same time, I always believe if you really don't want to do something, it's probably the thing you need to do.
Definitely. Which is why it is helpful to have a coach.
Shameless plug.
Because they will make you do it. No, but like that is true. Like I have a coach, you know, and I think I always will, because I know I love doing stuff, you know, like on my own, and I love just playing around in the gym. Like I find the gym to be a playground, which I know is not, again, the common feel for a lot of people. But I think people that are interested in strength and fitness, like that is a feel that people have. They love the gym as a playground, as like, I feel like I can be creative in the gym. Like that's my outlet for creativity. However, there are certain things that I don't want to do. Of course, there's things I don't want to do. Usually they're the things I'm not the best at. And so having someone that's going to make me do that, call me out on my own shit, like, yeah, I want that because I do want to get better. So although I would love to say that I'm going to make myself do that all the time, that's not true. You can't be objective with yourself all the time. So I do think it is helpful from any, like whatever you're interested in, to have some sort of coach. But that's true for anything in your life, you know, that you're maybe struggling with or want to get better at. It's always helpful to have someone that is a coach and can be objective in that area.
Yeah, even coaches need coaches, mate. Like there are things that, you know, especially if you are a coach, because like I know how badly that hurts and I don't want to do it, or I don't want to do it again. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, I've already done that shit and I don't want to do it again because that hurt me so bad. I had nightmares last time. Yet if it's programmed for you, you're like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm not going to let this human being down. Like I will do it. Or if you have a buddy there with you, like pretty recently I had a good mate of mine come to me and was like, Alex, I've heard you've done some weird and wacky, like physical charity events in the past. I've got this idea. Do you want to do it with me? And I was like, what's your idea? And he, no, go away. Like, let me drink my coffee in peace. We're not that.
Like this is not going down a good road.
We're not that good friends. Like, go away. And he goes, okay, the idea is this. I was like, that's a really dumb idea. No, I don't want to do it. That's ridiculous. But when are we doing it? Simply because of the fact of he wants to do this. And I know he'll end up doing it because he's psychotic like I am. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's not going to quit. So I can't quit. And it's the same thing with a coach, right? I know this person isn't going to turn their back on me. So if they take the time to program something, okay, cool, I'll get it done. Yeah, if it's on your own, you're like, oh, I've jotted down on this like sticky note that I should probably do like, you know, front squat 10s and that really hurts. So I'm just going to stop at 5s.
Yeah.
Or doubles.
I'm in a rush today. Yeah. But I also think, and you know, I think this is why there are so many coaches that have different, let's say different beliefs in terms of how you should program or the perfect program for people or how you should train. I think that they all work is because different people work best coaching different people in their personality types, right? Like, does that make sense? Like different coaches are going to fit best with different athletes, and depending on their personalities and their mindset and what their beliefs are outside of programming, never mind programming, just in general. Because in the end, the other thing that I've benefited the most, I've realized since I first hired a coach, which was actually not for powerlifting or weightlifting, it was when I was running, is that they saw something I didn't see. And like, they knew I could do something before I knew I could do something. So it kind of like instilled belief in me before I had it in myself. And like you're saying, that light bulb moment that goes off for people, when you're teaching them something and all of a sudden they get it and it clicks and you know they get it, that happens too, more on like the coach athlete relationship too, in terms of believing that the athlete can do something a lot of times before they even know. And that in their mind, that seems crazy. That seems too hard. That seems like too lofty. But as a coach, you're like, nah, that's going to happen. And it's probably going to happen sooner than they think. And once they start to see that you think that and that you truly believe that, they start to believe it. And they start to think, well, I trust this person. They know me. They know what they're doing. Like, maybe I can do this. And I feel like that point right there, that's when people start to get like really amped up about it, right? And like really strive for things that they didn't necessarily think they could before. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the coolest part, right? Just like, no fucking way. Like, did I just do that?
Right.
Or they finally get the bar above their head, or they finally deadlift. Like the biggest, I think the biggest ones for me, to be honest, is coaching ladies who have never touched anything to do with a weight before. Never. Yeah. They're just like, nah, I just get like my husband to do it. I'm like, why? They're like, oh, because it's too heavy. I'm like, have you ever picked it up? I'm like, no. I was like, why? you know? And so we obviously talk about that or whatever, but they deadlift just an empty bar off like plates. So it's propped up. It's not from the floor. I'm not just like pick that barbell up. Like we just go through it. You instill the confidence, move well, go through the little weights of the dumbbells, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you actually get to the barbell and they pick it up and they literally just look at you like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh, I'm so strong. I'm like, well, you've not gained any strength. I've just kind of tricked you that you can already do it. So you kind of have to bullshit your athletes, which is
100%. It is. But the thing is, like, what motivates me and what motivates you might not be the same, right? So, I mean, this is obviously more like sports psychology than actual programming science or anything like that. But that's also why some athletes or some clients are going to see such great success with one coach. And then you might be like, oh, that coach is phenomenal. And you go over there and you're like, I don't get it. Like it's just probably not the perfect fit from a like a motivational and like sports psych concept, which like that's pretty cool too. But it's just like, it's so interesting from that standpoint, like as well as like a programming standpoint and how athletes find success and how clients find success. And I always tell people, even if they start working with me, I've twice now said, I'm like, yeah, people are like, oh, I want to try it. I'm like, oh, don't get coaching first. Go find a free program. But in the same regards, like, hey, yeah, like, let's go. But always understand, like, just because a coach is a perfect fit for someone doesn't mean they might be a perfect fit for you. In other words, like if you are going to get into something and you're totally interested in it and you think you like it, but you're not having a great experience with the coach or the gym you're at, don't give up on it. You know, try to find the right fit first, because that can make so much of a difference.
Yeah, 110%. Like there's coaches for athletes and athletes for coaches, right? And then there's individual programs for people and there's individual spots and places. Like, look, you know, you might enjoy this 50%, but you might enjoy something else 60%. And you might enjoy something else 20% or whatever. And it's like just finding like whatever fits you the most. And I think people, especially coaches or gyms, look at it too much of a business standpoint and just like, I'm just trying to get as many numbers through my door as possible so I can like buy a new fucking Mercedes or some shit. And you're just like, well, like, first of all, this person kind of enjoys it. Like, do you care about this individual? Oh yeah, I care about this individual. Okay, cool. Well, then you would refer them to the gym down the street because you know they can provide more things for them. And then you might have made a friend. You know,
the greatest thing that you can do as a coach is know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. The hardest thing, but the greatest thing.
Yeah. I'll always say, I'm like, hey, if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. Like I will stay up all night because it will annoy me and I want to understand why. But if it's someone else's like sort of craft or forte, hey, go to them. Like I'm not going to walk into a bloody operation theater and be like, excuse me, I read this somewhere that you shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, that's not my fucking craft. That's not my job. Like, you know, so I do think, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. We should all try and be jack of all trades, master of them all, but you'll never get there. Be okay with referring.
And in the end, that makes you so much better at what you do.
Oh yeah. People believe the words that come out your mouth. Like, even if there's many times where ladies are like, okay, I want to get into strength training, but I only want to be coached by a lady. You're like, I respect that. But what am I going to do? Am I going to kick off and be like, no, like I can give you everything they can? It was like, yeah, but like they prefer and are comfortable with being coached by a lady and vice versa. And I'm just like, look, I can't just like miraculously be a lady for this 60 to 90 minutes and then go back to being a gen. But that's not going to happen. I mean, it would be a miracle if I could. I'd see the world in a different light. Probably, if everyone could be a lady, we wouldn't have any world wars, you know?
It's probably true.
I mean, it's probably true, let's be honest. But at the same time, you're like, okay, cool. Respect this individual's wishes, you know, wish them their best on their endeavors. And then they're probably going to come back to you. The amount of times, you'll probably have this, the amount of times I've referred people on and then they've come back to me with something different and wanted to work with me with something different, or come with my advice for something completely different, simply because I had the balls to say, hey, like, I can help you, but I think someone can help you more. And then it's down to you. Like, you can stay with me if you want, but I think they can help you more.
Well, it's because without even coaching them, they already, like, you've built that trust.
Yeah.
Right? Like, with your honesty, you've built that trust. And everything I feel like in fitness is like you're selling an idea, because it hasn't happened yet. Like, you're not able to give anyone anything physical. You're not able to promise anything to anybody, right? Like, you can't be like, oh, you want to get strong? Like, I promise I will put 100 kilos on your squat this year. I'm like, you can't do that. If I could do that, that'd be great, but I can't do that, right? So, like, I truly feel like without my, like, building trust, like, there's nothing, like, without the trust that's there between coach and athlete, like, there is nothing else, because you're leading them on a journey that there's a end goal, but there's no promise you're going to get there, because it takes the athlete's end and their kind of determination and their commitment to it and their hard work and their effort. And then it also takes a good coach and their programming and their belief and their encouragement. And, like, both of those things have to come together to get to that end goal. So it's not a guarantee it's going to happen, but if it does, it's an amazing thing. But in order to get there has to be this huge amount of trust. And, like you're saying, like, referring people on and being honest with people from the get-go of what you can and you cannot do is something that sounds so simple, but I think for many it's hard, because, like, you don't want to seem like, oh, like, I don't know anything about that, which isn't true. Like, we know a little bit about everything, like you're saying, but I don't know everything about that. But I know this guy down the street that really does. Like, that's his thing. He's so into that. So, good guy. I would recommend going and chatting with him. Right. So, like, yeah, if they go down there and they decide maybe that's not their thing and what you're doing, they're more interested in, they're already going to trust you and they're already going to believe in your process for that.
Yeah. And it's like mutual trust too, right? They come in and give you the trust in you they get one body and they get one health, and they're giving you both of those and be like, hey, here you go. Here's me, and I'm going to do whatever you say. And, like, that's a fucking lot of trust they put into you. So you better end up matching it. You know what I mean? And if you can, I don't know. Yeah. Back yourself. Yeah. I can help you 100%. And I know I'll work harder than, most people or everyone, and back yourself. But if it's like, okay, cool, you're more suited to Jennifer down the street, then go refer to Jennifer down the street. Hey, mate, like, I've got this lady or this gent that, would probably want to speak to you. Is that all right? Easy.
And in the same regard, like, and doing that is also being comfortable and being okay with telling people when it's not working, like, for one reason or another, whether it's on their end or on your end, like, hey, I don't think this is the greatest fit for either of us right now, because you're not getting out of your time and your efforts and your money what you should be. And for one reason or another, and perhaps this would work better, but let's just take a step back and figure it out, because like you're saying, like, I want to be able to help people, and I want to be able to help people progress in whatever that means for them. And if that's not happening, why? Right. And that 100%. Can be hard, because you don't want to necessarily have those conversations with people, but those are the most important conversations many, many times that lead to such greater progress. Some of those conversations that I've had with people have by far been the hardest conversations, but I have, like, say a handful of people in my mind that I have had those conversations with, and all of those people have had such great success after.
You end up addressing such a deeper, I don't want to say problem, we'll say issue. You address something that's been there from the get-go that they've just ignored, that's ended up hindering them slightly, and it's kind of come to the forefront and stopped them from doing something. And by you taking the time and having, the confidence of being, okay, we're going to have the difficult conversation, and whatever's going on, whatever demon you need to shake hands with, I'm going to be with you and we can shake hands together. And then if you choose, we can stay together. If not, I'm always going to be there to support you, but I think you should go elsewhere, sort of thing. And everything good starts with a hard conversation, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And sometimes it can be as simple as reevaluating the goal. Like maybe what they thought they wanted, they don't really want, right? Or maybe they do and they need to take a step back and figure out, like you're saying, like what is holding you back? What are some of those demons that are holding you back from really getting it done?
And I think
Either way,
fall in love with the process. Like people, they always see things in like flashing lights, right? They're like, oh, I want to be powerlifter, weightlifter, or whatever. I want to squat 200 kilos or snatch like
me
fucking
too.
whatever. Doesn't everyone? But you're just like, oh, I want this. I'm like, okay, cool. Do you want that, or do you want the training that's going to go into it? Because they're totally different things. And it's like, oh no, I just want that. And I'm like, all right, you probably need to like realize you're not going to get there. It's like, oh, what do you mean? Do you not believe me? No, I fucking believe in you, mate. But like at the same time, you'll do 60% of the work, complain that it's too hard and quit. And I'm like, if you fall in love with a constant grind of the 1%, 0.1%, learning the skill, doing this, doing that, you know, the mobility, all that other stuff, like, yeah, you'll get to that goal and you will feel such a level of pride afterwards because you're like, motherfucker, I dedicated X amount of time to be able to do that and then executed.
Yeah, it's true. And it's like the why, right? Like, I think that, I mean, before I got into strength sports, I did a lot of different things, but one of them, like I was a personal trainer, right? And a lot of personal training is like, find the why, right? Like of the people. I always thought that was kind of corny and oversold. However, what you're saying is when you're coming in, you're saying, I want to squat 200 kilos. Like, why? That's such a random, arbitrary number. You know, like why 200 kilos? Like, what does that even mean to you if you can't even squat 60 yet? Right? Like, you don't even know what 60 feels like. Why is 200 a random number that you have in your head? And it's like reevaluating, like, what is the actual goal? And I think that, again, I know that I've brought up social media a couple times, but like in a day and age where you go online and you see people that are doing these insane things, but what you're not seeing is the process behind it to get there and the work that it takes behind it to get there. And that process and that work isn't for everybody. It's for some people, absolutely, but it's not for everybody. And if it's not for you, that's cool. But then like you're saying, like that 200 kilo squat, like as a random arbitrary number, that isn't going to happen. Because if you don't love the process, you're going to quit.
100%. And if you look at it,
which is not the goal.
No, fuck me. Like starting everything and then quitting everything, like you don't want to be that guy or gal. But if you look at it as like a deeper picture, like we're all trying to add 1 kilo to the lift. We're all trying to move it that little bit better. Like if you go, oh, but I want to be like Meg, like fucking squatting the same thing. I'm like, it's all subjective, man. Like weights, it's funny because strength sports is an objective sport. It's the weight on the bar. If you lift it, you don't. But at the same time, it's a subjective sport because we're all trying to push our own boundaries. So I can't, for example, rock into a strongman competition and be like, all right, we're going to do a log press. The world record is 217 kilos. And I'll be like, all right, I want to beat the world record, put 218 on it. And say, for example, my log press is, I don't know, I'm going to pick a number out. I've never done it. 80 kilos. Oh, I stick 218 on it. You're like, well, that's not going to go well, is it? Let's be honest. No. It's all subjective.
No.
And then once those things get higher, then yeah, granted, you can play the field like the whole weightlifting cards, which is a really fun part of the sport.
That is, yes.
I love the mind games.
I agree. There is way more gamesmanship, if you will, to weightlifting than powerlifting, but just because of the selection and things like that. And that's something that it's super cool about weightlifting.
Yeah. And it's, I think the best one to watch was maybe, it was the 80, it was still when they had the 85 category of the World Championships with Mendez and, he's an Iranian fellow, I can't remember his name. Basically, they were going back and forth. The Iranian fella missed his last clean and jerk, so he wasn't going to get a total. And Mendes absolutely leaps for joy and says, put like the world record on the bar. So then he jumps up like 25 kilos, and then it becomes entertainment, right? And he wasn't leaping for joy because his opponent missed. He was leaping for joy. I'm like, now I get to attempt a world record on a world stage. And that's the whole game, you know, you're bumping up each kilo. So he's a bit tired. So he's going to have to take something under fatigue because, you know, like we know in strength sports, we like to rest a day and a half between lifts. Like,
that's one thing I'm not in on.
Well,
see, this
it
is
depends.
What I mean, though. This is why like I would have been a better CrossFitter.
Crazy. It depends, right? If it gets super heavy, I'm not touching that bar before 3 minutes. No way.
Yeah, but see, like that's not in like the powerlifting world. 3 minutes is not long.
Yeah, I know. My fucking brother's a powerlifter, and he's like,
That's
dude,
like
you should have rested. You should have rested 10 minutes. I was like, 10 minutes. My knees would have locked up. I would have been cold.
I know.
I was like, I need a warm up after 10 minutes, dude.
I don't like that either. Yeah.
That's silly. That's crazy.
I know. But in a meet, you gotta wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's true.
I know. Literally, which is funny because weightlifting obviously is much quicker, typically speaking. But if you do get caught in one of those jumps where there's like 10 people in front of you, you almost have to go like re-warm up before you go back. That was a learning curve for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it only happened to me once, but I took my first attempt, and then for whatever reason, there was like 12 attempts between my first and my second attempt. For I think it was snatch. I can't even remember, clean and jerk, but I literally had to like go re-warm up, like do a couple more reps so you don't get cold. You would never do that at a powerlifting meet.
Fuck no. Like
people would look at you like, what
are you doing? But at the same time, like you're
it's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, if you do that with a back squat, like you're seeing stars.
Forget it. Right.
It's like, it's just not there today. Like there's no point putting it on the bar. Or even more with a deadlift, that fucker's not moving. Like that's not coming off the floor, mate. With weightlifting, it's a little bit different. I feel like I can go pretty quick with a snatch, but if I have to grind out the bottom of a clean, fuck me. If they're like, all right, you got to go again in, you know, a minute and a half, I'm like, dude, I'm not picking that bar up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
See, that's the only thing, good or bad, because my jerk sucks so bad. I don't have to grind out a cleans. Since I came into the sport, being able to squat such a tremendous amount of weight, I've never experienced grinding out of a clean because my technique is not good enough.
However, if you miss a clean and jerk on a jerk, it's annoying because you've done the hard part. You picked it up from the floor.
Right, exactly. Well, that's my life story. Talk about a life lesson right there, right?
Never miss a jerk. No, it's annoying. Maybe just you split jerk?
Yeah.
Maybe go squat jerk. Why not?
I don't know. It's a good point. Squatting is my strength, so might as well, right?
Yeah, or power jerking. Like, because you're clearly a powerful athlete. Like, I don't know. Throwing it out there. Why not?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Just keep throwing it above your head. Something's going to work out. What about training through pregnancy, mate? Like that's rough. Like with one kid, never mind with two of those fuckers in there.
I know. Well, yeah, I was huge. I was tremendous at the end of my pregnancy. So my body was large. I was moving a lot of weight on my body. It was interesting. It was, again, kind of like a super humbling process. And I've never really trained without something very specific in mind, you know, growing up playing sports and then getting into different things after that. And lifting is obviously, you're typically training for some type of meet or some type of end goal. And I was literally just training to, stay strong and stay healthy and all that jazz, if you will, throughout my pregnancy, but without like a specific goal. And that was really interesting. And I think it was good in a way. Like, it was mentally refreshing for a little while to like take a step back and not necessarily be like grinding towards the next meet or trying to push weight on the bar. And a lesson in listening to my body.
I mean, if there's any
Which
time you need to do it,
most athletes aren't great at.
oh fuck yeah. Well, there's a joke, right? To know if it's a proper athlete, you go in their gym bag and they've got painkillers on there, and you're like, why have you got like a pharmaceutical, like pharmacy worth, industrial size painkillers in your fucking gym bag? Oh, it's just my knees. What about them?
You're always flirting with a line, right? Like when you're training for anything, you're flirting with a line of like, am I actually injured? Or am I just a little hurt? Like flirting with that line of like, is this going to go away in a week or two, or is this going to take me out for a longer period of time? Yeah. Typically you flirt with a line and you pick the wrong decision at some point and you end up with an injury, right? Yeah. But that's part of the game in some ways, and not a good one. And not, I'm saying that you should train injured or anything like that. I think a lot of people aren't trying to do that. It just happens because you love what you're doing. And unfortunately you teeter that line and eventually you pick the wrong choice. Yeah. And you end up with some type of injury.
Something I think people don't do is doing what they can while they're injured. So say, for example, they bust their elbow and they're like, oh, I can't train. You're like, you can, you just can't do what you want to do or what you have on your program you should be doing. You know, just do something. It goes back to just having fun, right? Doing whatever.
Yes. Yeah. And loving it for what it is. I mean, that's part of going back to training during pregnancy. You know, a lot of people would say like, oh, wow, like it's so impressive, like what you're doing during your pregnancy, or it's so cool that you're training during your pregnancy. But it kind of goes back to doing what I can, right? So like, there are so many things you can do, and that's going to be different person to person when they're pregnant. But I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to do most things throughout my whole entire pregnancy. Despite of how large my body got, I was able to modify some things, right? But I could still do so much. And for me, like, that's a huge win. Like, I love the process. So I didn't necessarily think of it as being something that was like this huge, impressive, or like big deal. It was just like, I felt lucky to be able to do all of X, Y, and Z while I was pregnant. Because it was a part of the process to me. And yes, it was a part of the process that looks entirely different than training, but still just a part of the overall process.
Yeah, there's always another day, right? And I'm sure, like, if you spoke to anyone that speaks to me every day, they will tell you this. Like, everyone always says, you know, how's your day, or fucking how's training going? I'm just building Rome. I just place another brick. Like, what do you mean? It's like, well, we've got in our heads this end picture, right? Which is so large, but if you think about it, all we start off with is a piece of dirt. So all we got to do is place a brick every day. That's all it is. And I think that is the fun part. You know, some people are competitive athletes. Some people are training athletes, whatever, you know.
Right.
Some people enjoy the training more than the competing. Other people, you know, vice versa. But I think if you're going to do anything for a sustainable amount of time, you have to end up fucking enjoying what you're doing day to day.
Yeah. Right. And it's never an all or nothing. You know, like, it's never an all or nothing. It's never black and white. There's a lot of gray area. And that's, I think, where a lot of people find their greatness, in that gray area, and getting out of that all or nothing mindset. Anything, like we were saying earlier, is always better than nothing.
Do something.
So there are many times you're going to run into roadblocks, and doing what you can is where you're going to find like your own kind of greatness during 100%. Those periods of time.
Just do something. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I read a quote the other day. It was something, it went along the lines of doing something poorly is better than thinking about doing something perfectly.
Yeah.
Just do something. Just
it's true.
Work is work. Get in the gym.
Yeah. It's like, you want to make your mistakes out of like acts of commission, like trying to do something rather than omission. Just like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good enough at that. Like, no, you want to make your mistakes when you're trying. That's when you're going to learn. If you make your mistakes by not trying, you're already basically failing before you even get started.
I mean, my favorite quote of all time is "The Man in the Arena" by Teddy Roosevelt, and it just shows like that's what.
Funny. My husband has that tattooed on his arm.
Damn. There you go.
Yeah.
It's such a good quote. And, you just need to get in the arena and throw punches. That's all it is. And I don't know. I don't know if it's people are scared of failing or people are scared of the hard graft, or they just idealize these Instagram pictures of like, oh, this is just, perfect all the time and everything goes their way sort of thing. I don't know, or it could be a combination of all three and some different factors going on in individuals. But I don't know why people just don't want to do it.
I think it's a mixture of everything, right? And like you see all the end results usually, and the end results typically that are shown aren't necessarily the ones that are huge failures. Sometimes you get to see like a failure as a result, because that's going to happen, especially as time goes on. But typically you don't see that. So I think people sometimes get, like you're saying, like they don't want to be that person that tries and fails. But it's going to happen.
It's a weird concept because you can't stop it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't fucking stop it.
Right.
Like,
even if you do it and you fail, you're going to be better for having done that and for having failed and for having gone through that process than if you didn't. And that's a hard thing to accept, because you have to accept that before you even start.
But I mean, whole saying, shoot for the moon and in the stars. You're going to end up taking more steps forward than you do back. I guess I'm blessed in a way because I know no different. Like everything I've tried in the past, I've ended up fucking up somewhere, like just fail after fail, you know what I mean? But I think it's when people have, the whole natural talent, like they can just pick things up dead simple as a kid and haven't really been given something where it's like, oh no, like I'm bad at this and need to really grind for it. Which is again, a reason why strength sports is so cool. The barbell is so cool. It's like, yeah, you could be naturally gifted at being strong. You could just naturally pick up like, I don't know, like a barbell and just like deadlift 200 kilos first time you come into the gym. Wicked. But there's always 201, Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you haven't learned, like you're saying, like if you're naturally talented and you have an inclination towards something, even if it was strength, if you haven't learned how to fail and how to work through that failure, you won't end up getting to that 201.
110%.
So I don't know.
All right, mate. My battery is going to die, and I know you've got two little ones that need whipping into shape. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, I really appreciate it. If people wanted to find you, mate, where would you end up sending them?
On the social media circuit. No, on Instagram.
Jump into the void that is social media and try and find you somehow.
Come find me at the Instagram handle Megscanlift.
Megscanlift. There you go. Boom. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a spot on day.
Thank you too.
Take it easy.